I'd like to invite Syed Haider to come up and give their talk. So you're from Sussex. Fabulous. Thank you very much. Do you need me to say anything, or should I just get out of your way and work magic?
No, it's yeah, I handle it. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Hi guys, I'm Syed. I was it started and that is only that gets taken away by the kind of high impacts. So it's kind of high impacts for a person who starts. For 24 years, I never took the stage to present, but now I've gained the courage to present. Not just present, but I'm working on research that is involved around solving structuring as well. So I'm a PhD student at Sussex. I'm a scientific machinery researcher at the R&D Institute, and I'm a Deep Tech Impact Innovation Fellow at the University of Cambridge. And special thanks to Dr. Miller Kibble, who's the Deputy Director at the Isaac Newton Institute, which is also part of Cambridge, and Dr. Evan Kirk, who's also at Cambridge, that has supported my research a lot. Thanks a lot. So yeah, so what I call stuttering is an invisible wall, or it is invisible disability. And I don't think this is working out, but yes. No, so yeah, so I call stuttering as an invisible disability, or an invisible wall that prevents talent to come up. Just my story, I was rejected 200 times before I got my PhD, which is just to sit on a desk and research and do maths. Whereas I was applying for sales role, consultant roles as well at McKinsey, Bain, MCG, PCG, but I wasn't the best to do consulting or sales, and I just got into Sussex to do a PhD as well. So yeah, that's just my experience, but this is very common because there's this hidden mechanism happening in the person instructors. We're not just speaking; we're also doing a linguistic word switching or a synonym searching at the exact moment in time. So right now, my mind is going around words that are difficult to say for me. So I kind of go around not say the words are difficult for me and change the language structure, grammar, lose information, not say stuff, say wrong stuff at times as well, because I can't say the right stuff. So when I was doing my bachelor's, I struggled on words that started with Q. I would be forced to say that I was doing my bachelor's at King's College, because King's College is flew, but Queen Mary didn't flew, but it flew now. But so like people who started, they kind of have to kind of hide information, or they might actually have to say the wrong things because they don't want to stutter and feel embarrassed or go in a cognitive overload pattern and lose the whole track of thought they want to say. So this is actually happening, and there's research on this that people who stutter their EEG scans are quite are at a level that is different to people who don't stutter. So they have like extra cognitive load while they speak, and not just the people who stutter. This is a two-pronged problem. People who listen also have cognitive overload. So what you guys are having is cognitive overload as well, because you're trying to think of what I'm saying, trying to not focus on words that I'm stuttering on, trying not to predict them as well. But that's another story. So yeah, so this is the constant thesaurus that goes on in the mind of person instructors. This is the cognitive overload. So there is shade burden. The speaker is consumed by the mechanics of speech, just trying to produce speech rather than trying to say what he wants to say. So he's trying to get over the mechanism of speech while trying to say something useful or contribute to society as well. Listeners drift. People who listen are trying to predict or fill in the words as well. And often the listeners forget the actual information that was being conveyed. and they focus on their mind is kind of there's this implicit bias as well that goes between considering structuring as a lack of ability or skills as well, which impacted my whole career as well. So there's not much on this because I call it as a silent disability, not just me. Everyone calls it as a silent disability because first people who structure don't speak, so you don't see them start stuttering because they don't speak. They don't take high stake situations that makes them stutter as well. Thirdly, it's silent in the way that there's no data on it. 80 million people across the world studied, which is an estimate of 1% of the global population, which is an estimate from the US population that's scaled across the world. And then again, this is silent disability. So this is just 1%. This is just scaled from the 1% of the US population. There's a wide lack of data, surveys, anything on people who studied globally. But this is a good estimate, as the researchers say. But this is the lower ceiling, and this is an underestimate. And unlike visible disabilities, there are few studies on its long-term impact as well. So if no one knows that I didn't get 200 interviews until I tell them I didn't get 200 interviews, because there's no mechanism made to follow on the person who structures life. And people who structure just kind of also put it under the glass, and they just treat it as something that doesn't impact their career while it impacts their career. So what we're trying right now is trying to make them understand that structuring is impacting your career, and you need some part of an accessibility arrangement, which we're working on as well. Yes, so lack of research, but it's not just about people structured not getting jobs. It's also an impact of GDP. It's a major loss of talent. It's a major loss of geniuses. Maybe we could have had a Newton that started but never took on the stage. Maybe we could have had a Turing, but he didn't come up because he started. There could be many of these scientists, not just scientists, politicians we could have had, leaders we could have had that didn't come up because they just used to start it. And the people and then society never gave them the space. Yeah, so we're lucky to have the Equality Act in 2010 that says that structuring is a disability, but there's nothing. It's really treated as one in the higher education reality. There are almost no standardized accessibility arrangements provided. When I used to go to people, the employers that are structured, they would come to me and say, "What do you need?" They should have something in place for people who structured already. People who structured shouldn't be asked for what they need, but the society should be prepared to provide tools for them that they need. And and I'm going to talk later in the panel as well about disability, about treating disability as not something that the person has or the staff or student has to take it to the HR, and HR does a one-off subscription. But these institutions should at large have these accessibility arrangements licensed for the whole of the year. It's not just you have to raise it to HR, then you get a one-off subscription for that person. There should be a mechanism already put in place that person starts, okay, we have 5 tools, and we are already licensed for it. So I think that's going to change how we view disability as well. We're lucky to have the European Employability Act 2025, which says that the employer now, if there is an accessibility tool available, every institute employee has to get that accessibility tool in EU. UK isn't part of EU, but on the greater scale, the European Accessibility Act says that if a tool is available, an accessibility tool, every employee, every company has to buy it by law. So that's really good as we develop an accessibility tool. Implicit-wise, so people who structured are perceived by the general population to be less skilled, low in ability, because confidence and fluency is tied with confidence, and confidence is tied with success. Which isn't really a directly proportional thing if we talk about it. So the mask of silence. Yeah. So no one knows you stutter until you speak. The dread of the first word is a lifelong wait. So like I was just sat there just thinking about, okay, I have to present this, and I might stutter. So this is a lifelong wait, that lifelong dread that person who stutters has to keep on it. And it's not just presentations. It could be as simple as hello. I didn't have much friends until I grew up because I didn't say hello to them. It wasn't their fault. It wasn't my fault as well. But the first hello, hi, hello could be hard. Ordering food on a phone call could be very hard. Going up to a waiter could be very hard. These are just like general human human communication barriers that person instructor has to deal with. Yeah, towards time, many students have to speak out about by the contributions under the radar. So they're like, okay, I just started, I'm just going to do research, sat on a desk, just do as much as I could. Maybe that's not the best thing for you. Maybe you were born to be a leader. Maybe you were born to be a speaker, but stuttering holds you back. Yeah, acts of courage, loss of learning as well. Yes, some children who stuttered are the ones who would raise their hands to ask questions. So there is also huge learning gap there because as you know, learning is like half of learning is full of learning is asking the right questions. And I would never ask questions. People who started never raise their hands in the class. Not just to ask questions, even to say the right thing. So I would always know the right answer. I would never speak up and say the right answer. Personal cost. So I had it says 100. That's the low cost, but it was 200 plus rejections I faced after my bachelor's in Queen Mary. I got first class. I got into the later stages until the last stage, where I was. I think my speech was a sole gatekeeper because they said that your skills were very good, but we just found a better fit, which kind of felt that my speech wasn't the best fit for that job. The PhD became essentially for me with a place where the work was performed alone at the desk, uh, and I would just do research in as a sanctuary because that just became a safe place for me. I would never still present research. I was at the Newton Institute's doctoral training camp last year when I was the last one who was because we had groups that were speaking, so and everyone had to present. So I was the last one to present. That didn't go really well, but that made me think about there should be something in place for people to start. Yes, so while PhD allows for intellectual growth, it reinforces the dangerous precedent structures are accepted only if they remain isolated researchers, never public facing leaders. So I could be hopefully a public facing leader soon as well. So people that's not just me, but it's 80 million people. So even like one person estimate of 80 million people, how many leaders we lose, how many public facing politicians we lose, how many salespersons we lose. And it's not, we don't have any data on the impact last year, on the impact on the GDP we lose over here. Innovation as well. Teaching talent, fluency, so I call it fluency tax, but fluency tax prevents potentially brilliant educators from entering lecture halls as well. Because if I was teaching or lecturing, I would stutter. I might not be the best teacher again there because I can't speak without being disfluent. So there's a teaching task as well. Like people who get into these PhD careers don't stay in academia because first they were given that sanctuary, but then they have to leave that sanctuary because academy roles are lecturing, teaching, so they can't even do that then. So why waste their 3 or 4 years PhD studies and not even give them a role in academia? Economic loss, job detections based on speech alone remove highly skilled STEM talent from the labor market, impacting national innovation and GDP. Public leadership structures are fitted out of leadership roles, which public speaking is considered non-negotiable trait for authority. Then I call this information tax as well because you lose on information. Maybe like how long I talk. Maybe you only understood or kept or were cognitively able to keep that information in your head. That's again the studies lacking on this, but there are some studies that say that listeners recall for a person who stutters is around 50% less to a person who doesn't stutter. So you can't even be able to recall some of what I said because I have a stutter. So yeah, I call this an information tax, which is it's like it gets into layers and layers and layers. Person who stutters doesn't speak information task. Person who stutters speaks, but the listener doesn't recall information tax, and it goes on. Accessibility gap. So let's talk about public health. So NHS has a wait time of 6 to 18 months, which we all know for a public speech therapist. It's free as outsourced, but availability is quite bad. So, and the sessions are very capped. So you get to speak to a speech therapist for 30 minutes, and then he gives you another slot after 3 months. You could get private therapy. You could get like small wait time, but then you're paying 50 to 150 pounds per hour. You could get it unlimited depending on your wealth, but you couldn't. And the access is standard. NHS really treats adult people who stutter. They focus on children who stutter. And then the therapy, a paradox. So speech therapy happens in low stake clinics where you only start with a therapist. You occasionally see, maybe if you're consulting a private therapist, you see him. Maybe if you're rich, you see him every month. If you're going to the NHS as a child, you might see your therapist monthly. Then your therapist just becomes your family, and you treat him as such, and you don't start it because you get comfortable. Starting happens in high stakes situations. So what we are trying to do is take out that from the clinic to everyday life, 24/7. Get that speech therapist out and make speech therapy as a prescription as well, like a tool that is a prescriptive tool. Take it out of the clinic. This is a very big therapy paradox. The speech therapist give you therapy in a low stakes closed clinic setting, but you stutter in your high stakes interviews, high stakes pitching, high stakes hiring. Everything is high stakes, and you start stuttering. Yes, so I just ask you to call that we should fix this environment, not the person who stutters. We should ask them not to stutter. Speech therapy is also structured around not stuttering, which is kind of which is kind of kind of a paradox as well, that you're trying to be fluent while you're not fluent. Speech therapy is trying to get you more fluent. So we should fix the environment. I'm not the person who structures. Speech therapy shouldn't be just to make the person more fluent, but speech therapy as a whole should be to people who don't stutter, listeners. They should get therapy on how to treat people who stutter. So yeah, so fix the environment, not the person, and towards the structural conclusive academia. I think that was me, Syed, from Sussex Steering and Givens. Thank you.
Brilliant. I think we've got some time for some questions, both from folk in the room and online. We've got any coming in online? None so far. Any in the room, folks? Go for it.
But I'm curious about, do you have an idea of what your ideal means of presenting research would be for you?
So, question just for the benefit of people online was about what might work best for you in terms of presenting and supporting research.
So, interesting question. So it could be about So people instructed don't get to think about accessibility arrangements because there are none. But it could be like a real-time tool as well. So you have something on your hand that helps you at every time point. If I could frame it as little as possible.
They're all going now. I think you were up first.
Have you got one small practical tip for institutions that could make life simpler for people staff?
Yes. To search for accessibility tools. Search if they can't develop one. Search for accessibility tools, and search for the accessibility arrangements available in the market. Don't just say we don't have anything available when there might be something in the market.
So again, for people online, that was about a tip for what employers could do in order to best support people, and it's about being proactive and looking for those accessibility tools that can support individuals. Fabulous. Sorry, folks, I'm just going to have to repeat everything for the benefit of people online each time. Go for it.
Well, it was about my question about accessibility tools. I think you mentioned it earlier as well. I can't really grasp what does the accessibility tool do? What do they do for you or for the environment?
And so again, sorry, I have to do this, but sorry. So this is about what does the tool do that supports you? What is the assistive tech benefit?
Yeah, so it depends. It depends. With stuttering, it could be like a speech fluency tool that helps you speak fluently. There are a few available as well. So there are some tools available in the market that monitor your speech and then train you on your speech as well. So like speech therapist as an app on your phone. So there are some tools available doing that.
So it's more a tool for you in your context, if one's got to stutter, to help you rather than help the listener in a particular way. Then
it could also help the listener as well. It could help the listener as well, but you'll have to develop a tool to do that. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, Andrew.
Yes, thank you very much. So a lot of universities are moving towards very skill-based curricula. A key part of this are discussions and group work. Do you have thoughts about how institutions can incorporate more discussions and group work while accommodating things?
So again, for the benefit of people online, question was about given that many people's curriculum are moving towards more skills-based or a skills-based focus with greater emphasis on group work discussions and things, how can we best support individuals, for instance, with a stutter to participate?
Yes. So I think some institutes do. They run a chat, online chat, real-time chat on the same time. So they could just have a real-time chat on the screen, and personal instructors could just write instead of speaking if they want. So you could see the chat writing what they want to speak in a group setting. So I could have the chat running and I could just type my answer to your question as well. You could just see the answer. That's one of the very direct approach to deal with it.
We've got one online. So which one am I doing? So Lily. So we've got the Zoom captions are surprisingly good at helping understand the speaker. I found the same when communicating with a deaf colleague. The captions were surprisingly good at helping me to understand what someone was saying. What does Syed feel about people using tools to help understand his speech?
Interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting one because I've been researching on that. Siri doesn't understand my speech, which and says to me when I start to start it, either blocks me by saying, "Did you speak?" So it doesn't let me start it, or it lets me start it and then says, "Did you speak English?" So it either stops you from starting, as in if I'm saying I walk a dog and I start starting by doing it, it just says, "Can you repeat what you said?" Or it waits, pauses. I'm walking a dog and then says, "Sorry, what did you say?" So I'm quite surprised with that answer. Siri, which is Apple's maybe the best speech to text tool available, doesn't do that well. So I'm quite surprised that Zoom subscription will do that well.
Oh, we've got another one.
Say the name of the person as well.
Oh, we've got Easy Dunlop. So what changes to academic practice or systems could help you with reducing stress on staff with stutters? Apologies if I mangled your name. Sorry.
What accessibility arrangements?
Yeah. So the question is, what changes to practice or systems could help staff?
Changes to so like an online learning chat could be one. Online learning chat could be one, but I think a more practical one is treating speech as a way of communicating thoughts, not as something that penalizes speech. So what I meant was understanding or weighing what I say more than how I say it. So that's what I tell my employers as well. Just scale or grade me on what I say rather than how I say it. What my interviews do as well is they write what I say. So they are writing my thought, which I would also recommend everyone to do if they're reading maybe with a starting person. Write what they say. Stop when they're stuttering, or when they started, try to predict the word and write it. And then maybe ask the stutter to pause and then understand what they said as a whole string of text, not just try to predict the word they were stuttering on. And if you can't predict the word, or if you don't understand the word they stuttered on, you could just ask them to write it. If you ask them to speak it, it's going to be more harder to understand the second time because they're going to stutter. The probability of them stuttering gets more because they're under pressure now. So they said it before without pressure. Now you're putting pressure on them to say the word they said without pressure. So they could just then write it what they said.
And is it? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
So, and I was just wondering, maybe you've already covered it, but whether there's any specific adjustments that in your life, in your career, you found particularly useful, or any environment where you felt more comfortable or less uncomfortable, and why, what was the key points there?
Brilliant.
Yes.
So, sorry for the big one line. So the question was about what adjustments have you found particularly beneficial, or what environments have enabled you to kind of speak confidently? Was that a fair counter? Yeah.
So sadly, I haven't found any accessibility arrangements that work for me because evidence to that is losing 200 jobs, getting a PhD to sit on a desk, do research, and not go into high stakes settings like trading or any high GDP stuff that a person could do. I know research is high GDP as well, but it's not as fast paced. So no, I haven't found much accessibility arrangements to have worked for me. But one was that I mentioned, which was just writing what I'm saying. So interviews, write what I say, wait when I started, either predict the word I started on, or just ask me what I said, or ask me chat of what I said. Write that, and then pause, read the whole string of text, understand what I said, and then question me on that.
Any more online? Any last thoughts or questions in the room, folks? That's brilliant. Well, in which case, thank you very much. That was really insightful.